SQL Server 2012 added the ability to consume live data that is being generated by an extended event session on the server through the live data viewer. And when you actually open the live data view in Management Studio, it's going to attach an additional target to your event session that's known as the streaming target. And it will read the live event stream as the memory buffers are being dispatched by the server. Now, when you attach the live data viewer to a session, it's going to change the max dispatch latency associated with the session down to a value of 3 seconds while the live stream is open. And this is so that you get a near real-time stream of the events that are actually firing in the engine. It does read the raw event data for the session, and this happens even when the defined targets for the session do not maintain the raw event data themselves. It will be disconnected by SQL Server if the number of events being generated will exceed what can be buffered without having a performance impact to the UI or to the actual workload that's running inside of SQL Server. And it just simply disconnects the UI, and when this happens, Management Studio will return an error letting you know that it has become disconnected from the live stream. The UI itself is limited to displaying 1 million rows of data inside of the grid view. So any other data that's being collected is going to have to be cached in files on the local client. And this is something to keep in mind because the size of the file cache could become problematic if you don't have a lot of space available on the root C drive. The default display is also going to follow the same that you get with a target inside of the target data viewer. And you're only going to see the event name and the timestamp. So you're going to have to do the same kind of customization. But if you have a saved set of display settings from a target data that you've viewed in the past, you can apply that to the live data viewer as well. In this demo, I want to show you how to use the live data viewer available in SQL Server Management Studio 2012 in the Extended Events UI. This demo is being recorded using SQL Server 2012, and it only works when using Management Studio 2012 with SQL Server 2012 as the database engine. So to start off with, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new event session, and we're going to call this session Pluralsight Demo, and we're going to use the Query Detail Tracking template, and we want this event session to start immediately after it's created and to watch the live data on screen as it's being captured. Now, we're not going to make any other changes to the event session. We're going to leave the events as they are, the data storage the same way that it was configured, and all of the session options as the template specified them. And we'll go ahead and create our event session. Now, with our live data view available, you'll notice that I've already had a customized set of columns created for the event session in the past. And what you could do is, if you don't have this, you can do open recent and then do Pluralsight live view settings from the demo files that have been provided as a part of this course. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to the demo files and we're going to run what's known as the AdventureWorks Online Books Online workload. And what this is there's a script file that has every example statement from the Books Online for the AdventureWorks databases. And this is a PowerShell script that's going to shred that down into individual statements and then run a workload against our SQL Server. So what we're going to do is we're going to run this from a couple of different windows and let it start generating live load against our SQL Server instance. And in just a minute, we should see events start populating for our event session. It does take it a few minutes to actually be able to parse out the file and break down the events and then start connecting to SQL and executing the statements against the server. So as we're looking at this, notice that we have event data flowing through. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to collapse Object Explorer so we have a little more space to look at our event session as it's actually executing. And in the live view, there's a couple of things that you can do. You can control the auto scroll, so you can disable auto scrolling so that you have time to be able to look at specific events and what the data is being held by those events or that was generated for an event. And then you can also do filtering and sorting. So if we only wanted to look at events from before a certain time or after a certain time, we can just drag our filter in the UI, click apply, and then click OK. And when we're looking at filtered events, notice that it's telling us how many are being displayed by the UI, and then it tells us how many total events exist inside of the data buffers for the grid. And if we're working with event sessions that have data with more than 1 million rows, only the first 1 million rows will be displayed. The rest will be cached in cache files on the root drive for the machine that it has the grid open. So we can continue to see that we have more events being collected, even though we've filtered inside of our event session. And if we wanted to stop data collection, we can do the stop data feed here. And what that does is it disconnects the UI from the streaming target, and now we have a fixed set of data that we can do additional work with. For example, changing our filtering and looking at different trends that happen with the data, or maybe even just sorting. Maybe we want to sort by the event name so that we see the events in a filtered and sorted order. That's something that you can do while the UI isn't collecting data, and it keeps it from having to continuously do sorting while the data is being collected off the stream. It can be sorted while the stream is active, however.